From sold-out Korean stages to Broadway, K-musicals are stepping into the international spotlight, raising a bigger question. Can musical theatre become South Korea's next cultural export? Hello and welcome to Press Perspective for this Tuesday, August 25th here in South Korea. I'm Min Sun-hee. As K-musicals win audiences at home and make their mark on stages from Broadway to London, we take a closer look at what's driving their rise and whether they could become the next global force of the Korean wave. For this, I have Celio with French daily Croix here in the studio. Celio, welcome back.
Glad to be here.
I also have Diya with Indian media platform Outlook Respawn. Diya, it's a pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you so much. Great to be here.
Right, lovely to have you with us. Right, we start here in the studio. Celio, Korean musical theatre turns 60 this year, and for the first time, revenue from Korean productions, I understand, has surpassed licensing revenue. You covered this, I believe. How popular are musicals at this moment with Korean audiences?
Well, right now, musicals are, without question, the biggest draw in Korean live performances. If you look at the numbers, musicals account for roughly 70% of the sector's revenue, not counting concerts. That's close to $280 million in 2025 alone, with tickets averaging around $40. And what struck to me during this report is who's actually filling those seats in the theaters. It's a young, largely feminine audience. About 60% are between 20 and 39. And I met people who go there every single week. One woman told me she comes back constantly because the lead roles rotates between different actors. So depending on the day, you see a different version of the show. So they want to not miss any type of version. So they come back always to see every version. And there's also a real rhythm how those shows are consumed. Production typically run for about 3 months, so you have to see it or you miss it. So people rush to see those shows. Tickets are often sold out, and for a fan, they see on average maybe 4 to 5 musicals a year. That's quite a lot compared to other countries. And it's not just a die-hard theater fan anymore. People might go there just to celebrate an occasion, to go out with friends. I met some people, they went just as an occasion to celebrate something with their friends. For some, it was the first time. For some, they knew a bit how it was. So you have the frequency and you have also the loyalty of Korean fans. And I think that's as you said, now that Korean musicals are outselling also the licensed ones, we can see really a genuine national passion about musicals.
Right, indeed. Diya, you also covered K-musicals for the Indian media. How much international interest is there for Korean original musicals?
Actually, I think there is a growing interest, if not, a great one, but it's gradually growing. The most important change that I have noted is that the international interest is becoming more commercial rather than, showing simply just cultural curiosity, although cultural curiosity is the base from where it stems. So the K-musical international market that I have covered for 2026, it brought over 4,000 participants, more than 350 business meetings happened. So, the atmosphere is quite different. It simply showcases that Korean theater is not just growing, but it has become a commercially viable aspect, a sense that Korean musicals are increasingly discussed as exportable IP. Such thoughts are growing. But I would still call this an early stage, because there is a lot to build around the IP structures. And I think Korea in this case champions because how they have created an integrated structure around itself about its content.
Right, I see. And before we delve deeper into that, Celio, let's talk about the reasons behind the popularity of musicals here in the country then.
Well, I would say we know Korea is also a country of music, and people either they enjoy songs and singing. We know how popular karaoke are in Korea, and I feel musical also play in that same field. People want to sing along because often people will sometimes listen to the songs on YouTube before, and they come prepared to the theater to sing along. They also want to see some actors they like, and some actors are idols, for example, so they already are a bit familiar with them. They want to see how they can interpret a certain type of characters. As I mentioned before, also the lead actor change from day to day, so people want to come back and see again, see maybe how their favorite actor might play this role, but how another one could play it. So that plays a lot, and it's also, there's a real energy there. There's I would say there's a unique, maybe Korean way of making a musical that is probably different from what we see in Broadway or in other other stages in Europe. So there's really a Korean way with maybe a lot of energy, with lead figures that are really known by the public, and that it's a make-up thing. It's also the emotion, the performance, the instinct also of choosing your favorite cast, and people wait in line to take photos with the cast before and after. So it became also a shared social, cultural event. It's not just a niche hobby, it's something really shared by a lot of people in Korea.
Right. Diya, the Korean musical Maybe Happy Ending became a major Broadway hit back in the year 2024. And since then, K-musicals have expanded to both Broadway and the UK. That being said, what more can you tell us about the notable developments overseas with regard to K-musicals?
So, with regards to K-musicals, I would like to say that Maybe Happy Ending, it's a conversation changer, right? It has won 6 Tonys, and it has won the best musical. It has over 97% of paid occupancy rate of it. But I think the more interesting development was that we are now seeing several different routes overseas. For example, Marie Curie reached the West End, Swagage has moved into London, and Korean productions are increasingly looking towards, an Asian zone, Japan, Taiwan, Hong Kong, and other Asian markets through, co-licensing, co-production. So I wouldn't just describe this success story as just Korean musicals going to Broadway or going to UK or US, but it is just becoming a much broader regional and global strategies part. It's something that is very much commercially credible at this point. And again, so it's a bigger infrastructure to deal with, since we have a lot of production elements involved in it.
Right, I see. Celio, moving forward, Korean actress Ivy, I believe, she recently took a leading role in Broadway's Chicago. How has she been received there?
Well, so far we're seeing a very warm, very emotional support, especially from the Korean diaspora in the US, but also Korean people going to the US, passing by, maybe wanting to watch the show. Some people say they felt a sense of pride to see a Korean actress on Broadway playing in an iconic musical. There was a sort of, some people mentioned a sense of disbelief almost to see this that is really happening, and it's worth understanding why this moment carries so much weight, because Ivy has played Roxy Hart in Korea for over a decade now, nearly 600 performances since 2012, and so this isn't someone new to the role. She's stepping in something unfamiliar. She has 14 years of experience. This show has been in Korea for about 14 years now, and so this character is known, and she's good at it. She proved it, and she now is performing in the show's birthplace in English on Broadway alongside the existing New York cast, and not in some would say separate Korean version of it, but fully integrated really into the Broadway run. And this distinction really matters because Broadway lead, especially in signature American classic like Chicago, is mostly a white cast, and now we see something more diverse, a Korean actress stepping into Roxy Hart on stage to cast also her own way of playing that character, and it's really something new, something refreshing. I would say for the American audience, but also for the Korean one. And so having an iconic classic American musical, taking that risk maybe to go against the current, to show something new, is really something interesting, and it's more even than just a symbol. It's a big change that is happening in this industry, I believe.
Right, indeed. She has a remarkable presence on stage. Diya, generally speaking, what are the distinctive strengths, perhaps, and characteristics of K-musicals, do you think?
Yeah, I think that the first strength is the combination of Korean production discipline with a very strong small theater development culture. They have no theater district is a prime example of that. It functions as an enormous creative laboratory. So, Korean original musicals can be intimate in nature, can have small venues developed through repeated productions and casting changes, but then it also has the ability to move into the commercial theaters. And maybe Happy Ending is a clear example of that. Second is that they have a globalized as well as emotional storytelling. For example, there was I think a musical which was showcased in London, which had generative AI human connection themes. So it's a globalized kind of a globalization of K musical, right? So it has a very very globalized approach, a very universal take. So it's particularly interesting over there. So You and It, I remember the name, You and It, which was held in London's theatre. Now, there is also one more thing, that it is adaptable in nature. So we already know that K-pop and K-drama are getting a wider presence, even what it had earlier. And I think the relatability will also have this K-musicals make into a commercially exportable thing. So it's much like something like what India has done organically in terms of cinema. Their theater system is a bit fragmented at the moment, but so as the musical exports. But in that terms, Korea is actually building onto the K-pop and K-drama exports to, they can enlarge in that base.
Well, taking into account the advances of K-musicals on the global stage, the Culture Ministry here has increased its support and funding of musicals. What policies or initiatives, Celio, are worth keeping our eyes on?
Well, the headline here is really striking. The ministry's budget for a musical has jumped from about 3.1 billion won last year to 24.4 billion won this year. That's nearly an eightfold increase, and at the timing also is not just pure coincidence. It comes right after Korean original musicals overtook licensed foreign production in ticket revenue for the first time, as was mentioned in the beginning of the show. So it's about 230 billion won versus 222 billion won last year. And the minister, Cho Wi-young, called that a meaningful signal and signal also the funding boost is clearly a bet on keeping that momentum going, both in Korea but also abroad. A few concrete initiatives are also worth watching. First, direct production support. The government plans to back 7 production with roughly 1 billion won each, so there's quite a big funding for those, and that's aimed at helping homegrown IP to scale up, to develop, and maybe to sell them abroad. And second, there's a venue also support price. The state is preparing a rent around 4 performance spaces to make staging and to show those musicals more easily to the audience, which address a real bottleneck in the industry, because since large soul venues are limited and already heavily booked, it's hard for new shows to run alongside the main one. And for the audience directly, starting the end of May, the ministry plans to hand out hundreds of thousands discount coupons for every shows to encourage people to go and also keep that momentum going to have this growth of the industry in Korea. So put together this government policies explicitly trying to help Korean musical to grow more steadily in Korea with the objective maybe in the future to export those licenses to Broadway, but also to Europe or maybe other Asian countries.
Right. That being said then, Diya, can K-musicals become another major genre of the Korean wave, do you think? And what will be key to their future success, do you think?
So the more realistic opportunity for K-musicals is to become a premium performing arts IP category within the Hallyu wave. So it's unlike K-pop, it's very unique in nature. You know, K-pop has a mass demand, but musicals have a fundamentally different economics from the streaming drama or a K-pop. You know, a song can reach hundreds and millions of people, hundreds and millions of listeners without requiring a physical infrastructure. But a musical needs all of that. It needs a theater, it needs the performers, local producer, technical crews, marketing, and a viable ticket price, a very, very important thing, a viable ticket price. You know, that makes the international scaling a bit slower. However, the biggest opportunity for the K-musicals is therefore at the moment IP rather than touring alone. You see, for K-pop exports performers and music, right? And K-dramas export finished products, audiovisual finished products. And Korean musicals can export stories, scores, you know, production formats and licensing rights, allowing the same IP to be recreated in different countries. So the next priority should be developing a much larger pipeline of shows capable of surviving outside Korea. That means that we need to invest in writers, composers, and dramaturgs rather than concentrating too heavily on celebrity casting. So it also means developing English language versions also while building relationships with overseas producers before a show is finished in Korea, and also learning how to adapt than to simply translate. So the other critical factor is also Asia, something which is a pan-Asian concept is something that could boost K-musicals even more. Like it's already familiar in Japan, China, Taiwan, and this markets can function like an intermediary layer before the Western expansion.
Right, quite a bit to think about. Celio, moving forward, you wrote, and do correct me if I'm wrong, you wrote that musicals could become another source of Korea's soft power. Would you like to take this opportunity to explain that?
Yeah, exactly. What really came through when I was talking to people at the theater was really a sense of pride and a real hope that Korean-made stories get their due internationally, the same way K-pop and K-drama already have. And I would say that hope is not hypothetical anymore. It's already happening. For example, the romantic musical, Maybe Happy Ending, won 6 major Tony Awards, becoming the first Korean-created musical by a Korean artist to succeed in Broadway. Alongside it, also the Great Gatsby was pushed to Broadway by a Korean lead producer for the first time. And so industry people are really now openly using the term K-musical as we use for K-pop or K-drama. And for the industry also, they can see also the ambition from Korean producer. Now it's not just about exporting the license abroad, it's also maybe changing the relationship. It's not just Korea maybe learning from Broadway, it's also Broadway trying to adapt to what can come out of Korea with new IP growing and getting a lot of popular traction. So New York also prepares itself for a relationship, and that will only grow more and more over the years. The more Korean producer can move to New York and so forth. And also I have to mention more also on the audience. It might be difficult for some foreigners to maybe know a lot about Korean musical because maybe they don't speak the language. And I have to mention the website Musicals of Korea. I met the woman running it, and she's trying to translate, and also she published in English on her website, and she is directed to foreign audience that are interested in Korea, in Korean musicals, and she put all the scheduling, if it's available in English, when it's available in foreign countries. So through those also dedication, and it reminds me a bit of how K-pop also works with fans dedicated to make the movement grow. I think we can see something similar in Korean musicals with fans trying to spread their love and share their love about Korean musical to their foreign audience. I think that's also maybe the key for the growth of K-musical abroad.
Right, and this website, Celio, just to be clear, it's called Musicals of Korea. I see. All right, that's all the time we have today. Celio, as always, thank you so much for your time and your thoughts. And Diya, over in India, thank you so much for your insights today.
Thank you.
Well, pundits believe the next act for K-musicals could take the Korean wave to an even bigger global stage. Thank you for watching.